As entrepreneurs, we go through these crazy ranges of emotions, juggling a million different things, and we've all been there. This is the roller coaster. I want to give you 3 tangible things today so you can feel a little bit more at ease of the entrepreneur roller coaster. So the first thing you need to do is you've got to know your strengths. You have to know your strengths as an entrepreneur, right? If you are trying to push yourself into being someone that you're not, you're going to feel that discord and that conflict in your business. And I want to share my own personal experience that I very recently did this really great test. It's called the DISC test. And basically you answer a couple of questions and it breaks down for you your both natural and adaptive states. The states that you are in when you are naturally behaving, and then the one which is adaptive is the one that you step into when you feel you're being watched, right? And it was very fascinating for me to kind of uncover where my strengths were and where I was actually pushing against those things. And one thing that I got on the feedback from this, and of course all of these tests, just like personality tests and all that, you know, they're not 100% accurate. They're just take them for what they are. But what I learned from mine was that I have a very high internal fundamental need to be a leader, this high leadership. But then I also have, and to like take decisive action, to jump all in, to be quick with decisions. But then I also have an incredibly high need for, it was under caution, but it's really that perfectionist, that having high standards, wanting things to be done correctly. And what was kind of funny about this is like, well, dang, no wonder I come into these places of emotional conflict, because those can be very two opposing forces. If I want to get things done quickly and I have this need to move fast, but then I also have a need for things to be done right and to be done at a certain standard, well, of course, I'm going to run into some problems where I'm feeling a little bit stressed out, where I start to feel not in control of things. So that was really insightful for me to go through and take those tests. So if you guys haven't checked that out, you can go and just simply Google the DISC test, DISC. I'm working with a coach right now because all coaches need coaches. And it's been really fun to go through that and really assess and just kind of like hack my own psychology a little bit. So guys, do you know what I'm talking about right now, where you start to get into those states of stress when you are, you know, in entrepreneurship? That's what we're talking about today. Okay, so like I said, I started to recognize that there's 2 very opposing forces within my own functioning as an entrepreneur. So I'm like, well, shit, like what do I do? How do I fix this? So now I think the first piece, of course, is just awareness of your own strengths. And then learning how to find that balance for yourself. And the word balance, I tend to not even use it. It's really like personal harmony, because it's different for everyone. Like your test is going to come back differently. Your personal needs, the way you like to work is going to be different from the way I like to work. And that's okay. So you just, you know, you can listen to gurus all day long, but the best advice anyone can ever give you is to trust yourself, to really start to understand the way that you feel most fulfilled. Right? And it's funny because you guys can look at your own lives, you can look at your past experiences and really go, oh yeah, this makes sense, that makes sense. When I was bartending, my nickname by this kind of snarky manager was By the Book. My nickname was By the Book. And he gave us all these nicknames in a very condescending way, but the comedy behind it is that, yes, I knew every single recipe to the T, every single recipe to the like quarter of an ounce. And I was like, it is unacceptable to not make things exactly to recipe, because we worked in a corporate place. And it was like, I want brand consistency for this company. And I want people to know that they're getting the same product every time they go in. Because you know when you go to a place and you order a drink that you loved the last time and it tastes totally different and watered down or extra sweet the next time, you're annoyed, right? You're like, what the heck? This is not what I ordered. This is not what I expected. And so I felt really strongly about having that standard, having those expectations. So it's been a core principle for me forever. It was just funny seeing it on the test. And you know, I also have that strong sense of leadership. That was the other thing on my test. And I look at, even back in high school, before I really had much of an entrepreneur spirit, I've always had this attitude of like, don't tell me what to do. Don't tell me what to do. To the point where I was like 11th grade, not even senior year yet. And I was like, yeah, mornings, not for me. Not for me. I don't want to wake up that early. So I dropped my first period class because it was like Spanish. And I was like, I don't like this teacher really. I'm not really getting anything out of this. Meanwhile, like I was the crazy studier, got like every, like by the book studier. But like if it wasn't something I cared about, I was just like, yeah, no, I'm not gonna do that. And the guidance counselors are like, well, Jen, it's like good to have like, honors Spanish on your stuff. And I was like, yeah, I would love to learn Spanish, but he's not teaching Spanish. They're just like joking around about some English teacher that I don't have, and I don't know what the heck anybody's talking about. So I'm out. And I dropped it, and then like some of my friends decided to drop it too. They were really mad. They were really pissed off that I did that. But I was just like, my rules. You don't tell me what to do, okay? Like, I don't want to wake up early. I'm glad you guys are relating to this, but I'm like, when we try to, and a lot of you guys in entrepreneurship do have that quality. So when you try to step into corporate, or you have a manager, you have somebody telling you how to run the show, you're like, hold on, no. I have a better idea. And you're creative, and you want to be the leader, and you're kind of being forced into what you'll probably see on your test, an adaptive side of that personality where you're not fully able, based on your circumstances, to step into that, whether it be because of the where that you work, or some limiting beliefs that you have around stepping into your natural state. So that is why it is so important to know your strengths. So that's number one. Number two of really getting off the crazy roller coaster, or at least minimizing the entrepreneur emotional roller coaster, is throwing away your fear and acknowledging where these things came up. Where did these things come up? I think about, even for myself, I suddenly had this fear of heights. When I was a really little kid, we used to go to North Carolina, and I remember on one trip we were hiking Grandfather Mountain, which is the highest peak in all of North Carolina. I was 6 years old, and we got to almost the top of the mountain, and all the men and me, the little 6-year-old, we were like, we're gonna go all the way to the top. We're gonna free climb up these weird, rickety old ladders. Like, now would I do that? Hell no, because that was the day that I established this fear of falling, or this fear of heights. And we climbed up these rickety ladders, and I'm like being passed up by these guys, by all these dads. And we got to the top, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm standing in the middle of a cloud. It doesn't feel like cotton candy like I expected. I can move through this cloud. This is weird. But I was in the middle of a cloud, and I remember distinctly looking over at a couple that was sitting on the edge of the mountain with their feet dangling off. I mean, you fall off that, you're a pancake, right? You just splat. And in that moment, I looked at them, and I was like, oh my gosh. And I wanted to sink down, even though there was like plenty of space around me. I was not on a small ledge by any means. I was in the center of probably something that's the size of most people's homes. Like, I was not near an edge, but I saw that and had this instant fear, and I was like, oh my gosh, what if I fall? Those people could fall. They make one wrong move getting up, and like, boom, they're done. They're dead. There's nothing that's going to catch them. And all of a sudden, I started to allow this, not completely irrational fear, but fear to start to come in. And we got off that mountain, and I don't think I ever climbed another one, not quite like that. Maybe I wasn't given the opportunity to, but in that moment, I remember developing that fear. And you probably have scenarios, moments in your life, most likely from really early childhood, when you were in that like first grade class, and the little boy said something to you, or the teacher said something to you, or your parent yelled at you in a certain way, and all of a sudden you thought, oh, well, I guess I can't do that, or oh, this is bad. And you assigned some meaning to whatever happened, right? And one of my amazing clients is on right now, Nicole, and she does so much work on inner child. And I have to bring this up because we were chatting about it the other day, that, there is that little girl or little boy inside of all of us, that little child that didn't get something, maybe a multitude of things, but at least one thing, there was something that it didn't get. And so we're always kind of looking to recreate that in our adult lives. And so we have to really recognize that there is an inner child inside of us, and kind of say like, hey, little 6-year-old Tia, hey, little 7-year-old Amanda, I'm an adult now. I'm going to take it from here. There is so much power in being able to release that energy. Not even necessarily like, yeah, sure, you can go to therapy. I think that's so powerful. You can work with coaches. You can kind of push through all of that and peel it back if you're not really sure how to do that. But we don't need to overcomplicate it. You have the power right now by yourself inside of you in this moment to make that decision, to decide to throw away that irrational fear that was created when you were 7 years old, 5 years old, 3 years old. Think about it. I'm sure, almost any kid gets made fun of, right? or has somebody say something mean to them, think about it. Maybe you were in kindergarten, maybe you were 5, 6 years old, and a little boy said, "You're ugly," or "You're fat." And that was something that you allowed to kind of dictate your entire life, and you identified as fat or you identified as ugly. Well, really think about this for a second. I know if you go back into that place and you start to recognize or you start to play out the visuals of that moment, some emotions are going to come up. But now I want you to think about you walking into that scenario. Little you can be there. Think about you walking into that scenario and see that little boy. He's 5, 6 years old, or that little kid, or whoever, or that adult even. Are they as intimidating now as they were when you were a little kid? Would you react the same way now as you did when you were a little kid? If you were parenting your baby self, what would you say? How would you handle that? Right? So we start to really recognize that these little memories, these blips on our radar, these tiny little moments in time, we allow them to control and dictate our entire existence. And there are people in nursing homes right now who are 80, 90 years old who never worked through their shit, who never worked through it, and are now sitting there unable to create the life of their dreams, saying, "I just wish I could." Now, as this elderly person, I recognize that I missed my chance, and it was so stupid. It was so stupid to do that. I missed my chance. I know you don't want that, and I don't want that for you. That is why I get up every single day and do what I do, because I know that there is so much greatness in you and so much possibility that you've just got to tap into and let it rip. Let it rip. Oh, Nicole, I love it. Yay! I don't know about you guys, but throughout most of my life, I have specific moments in time where things started to close off, where I started to lose my natural state, my intuitive being. And I developed these beliefs about who I could be. I was like, oh, I'm a shy kid, or I'm a this, or I'm a that. And I actually have a distinct visual of what I remember it feeling like. And just picture me, my body, but almost with like mummy wrappings. Something covering most of me, but then little peaks, little cracks in all of those layers with a light popping through. And I don't know why that is the visual that has always come up for me. And I wish I was a better artist because I would draw it, because I feel like it's such a powerful symbol of the way that I felt. And slowly but surely, I've been able to peel back those whatever it was, toilet paper, layers, who the heck knows, these limiting beliefs, these false stories, and I've been able to release what I see as, my cosmic being, my higher self, my source energy, and I've little by little throughout the years really been able to almost relearn how to be me, how to step into my power, right? So say yes if you know what I'm talking about right now, or you've had a similar experience, because I don't think I've ever told anyone that. So, we'll keep this between us, right? But I've never told anyone that, and I'm actually very curious if anyone else has experienced that. Yeah, I've never told anyone that before. So that's throwing away irrational fear. Those are some tools to hopefully help you bridge that gap. The last piece of this. So quick recap, knowing your strengths was number 1. Number 2 is throwing away fear. And number 3 is trusting your own voice. Trusting your own voice. This is probably one of the most challenging things to do in today's day and age, because we are inundated with so much information. I think it's something like we read the equivalent of 7 newspapers front to back a day. What? Because we're literally sitting there scrolling Facebook, scrolling Instagram, taking things in at such a high capacity that our brains have not evolved yet to be able to sort all of that. If you're that person that goes to bed and just can't sleep, it's probably because your brain is trying to do overtime to store and sort all of the things that you're reading and consuming throughout the day. So you may need to go through like an information detox, even if it's personal development. Dare I say it? Dare I say you need a personal development detox? I know, you junkies, you don't want me to take it away. It's like, don't you take away my podcasts. Don't you dare take away my books. I need my personal development. But be mindful about the types of personal development you're consuming. If you're on an information detox, it would probably be wise to choose content that's a little bit more spiritually based, as opposed to things that are like, here's how to learn about social media and marketing and video and Instagram, because that's not the kind of stuff you really want to start with first thing in the morning. At least I know for myself, if I start and pick up like a book about social media, like my day's lost. Like I'm now off on that, instead of allowing whatever I could have come up with, whatever genius thing I could have come up with. Now I'm on someone else's agenda because a new thought has kind of sparked something. So I like to do a little bit more protecting of my energy and my mindset before I start to dive into any informational content. So if that's you, you might need to do that so that you can learn to not only even just trust your own voice, but learn how to listen to your own voice. Learn how to hear and pay attention and tune in so that you are tuned to the radio signal that is your inner being, right? And I think there are so many times where we shush our inner voice, where we push it aside. And I did for years. And that's why I was so effing miserable, because I pushed it aside. I wouldn't listen to it. And for me, it got to the point where I was in school, commuting 10 hours a week, taking 21 credits, doing a show, working at a restaurant for like 25, 30 hours. I would work sometimes until 3 o'clock in the morning, go home, take a shower, be up at 7 to leave for school. Like sleep deprived, living on Red Bull and coffee and pizza. And I was just like, I was snippy, I was mean, because I just was so tired and so burnt out. And it got to a point where I was doing that for many years, and then I still stayed in this crap job, this job that was really just supposed to get me through college. But in my mindset, I was not worth more than that. And so I needed to really start to trust my inner voice. My inner voice, God, it told me almost every single time that I woke up and said, I don't want to go to work today. It was like, Jen, you can quit. You'll figure something out. Another job will come. You will find better people to work with. You will find a better work environment. You will find better hours. You will feel more fulfilled. But I was like, no. And then I spent the next 20 minutes talking myself out of it. Oh, but it's just down the block. Oh, but I have seniority. Oh, but I know everyone. Oh, but I'd have to go through a new training. And I actually talked myself out of leaving for about 7 years. I mean, I wasn't miserable the whole 7 years, but toward the end, like I went back because I didn't think that I could find anything better. And I was also in that place of worthlessness. And so, of course, I was magnetized to a place that matched the way that I energetically felt. And of course, there were friends of mine who worked there who had great experiences working there, who had a totally different experience, totally different perception, to the point where one of them even got a tattoo on his arm of the coordinates of this particular restaurant. Like, talk about polar opposite experiences. But it was the energy that I was bringing in. And when you are experiencing something over and over and over again, you come into a situation or to a person or to a scenario with a specific energetic state, and then you interact with those people. What do you think you're going to get? Whatever your energy is, it's going to match. It's going to bring you exactly what you're putting out. So of course, I had a shit time there. I was miserable. And so for me, it got to the point where the only way for me to break out of that in that moment, at that time in my life, was to actually leave, right? But it really came down to pain versus pleasure. I was scared to death to leave and level up. But I finally listened to my inner voice and my inner body, my emotional guidance system, my emotional guidance scale that said, you gotta go. There's more out there for you. You've got to say no to something so that you can say yes to something else. And that was one of the scariest things for me to do. And everybody was like, you should stay, tried to talk me out of it. And I just thought, no, I have to go. I might be broke. I might be scared. I might have less friends because people won't spend as much time with me because I'm not at work with them. I don't know. I'm not gonna die. I know I'm probably be able to find another job. I'm employable. So I was able to finally listen to that inner voice, that feeling in my gut that said, do it. So if you feel that in your gut about things, stop pushing it down, stop coming up with reasons why you cannot move forward. It might be you're like, oh, I really want to go to that cool entrepreneur event, but maybe I'm not ready. Or what if people there look at me because I'm not at my goal weight? Or maybe I should have some more followers before I go. Or I should probably make more money first and then go next year. Like, no. You need to step into your highest self right now, right in this moment. Because that's the only way you're trusting your inner voice. And when you're trusting your inner voice, you're going to be successful. When you're ignoring it, I don't know what to tell you. right? And I even think about when I was in school, I was burnt out, tired, exhausted, ignoring every part of my body that said rest, that said find something else, that said this isn't your path. I ignored it for 4 years and did the quote unquote right thing. Until one day I was sitting in my car after a nap, and I pulled out my phone and I wrote out the words, feed your soul. Feed your soul. Divine download, and all of a sudden I realized that I had ignored my feminine energy, my creative energy for the last 4 years, and just went into survival hustle mode when I was in school, when I was in college, so that I could get my degree, so that I could get out, get good grades, do my thing, like have everything buttoned up. And I was literally felt like I was dying inside. Like I was so unhappy, so depressed, so anxious all the time. And after that, I ended up leaving, and I got accepted into a really prestigious acting conservatory, and I spent the next year studying that. And being in the presence of those people who were so spiritually tapped in, who were so in a state of growth every single day, getting uncomfortable, getting up, doing monologue, doing a scene, crying in front of people, like just you are stripped bare. You are naked emotionally in front of a whole group of people that become your family. But for me, that was what my soul needed. And so I finally allowed myself permission to feed my soul. I felt like I had done the shit work. I'd put in the work of what everybody else wanted me to do, quote unquote, and I finally gave myself the opportunity to feed my soul. And that for me was probably one of the first times in my adult life where I was able to trust my inner voice, trust that everything was going to be okay, and really allow that divine download to come in and give me guidance to that next step, right? Like I decided to not go and get my PhD in psychology or my Psych D so that I could then go and pursue performing. And going through performing and all of that, it led me into entrepreneurship, which is so my jam, so my purpose. Like I'm performing to a degree right now, but I'm feeling so on purpose, so in my element, because I had to start, and I had to start by trusting my inner voice. So that is what I have for you guys today. I hope you took some notes. I hope you got some little nuggets and takeaways. If you did, please post them below and let me know your biggest takeaway right now. I would love to hear from you and really get a better sense for, the kind of content you really love and the things that you're really wanting to work through right now. So just a quick recap. Number 1 is know your strengths. Number 2, throw away irrational fear. And number 3, trust your own voice. So if you found this powerful, please hit the share button and hopefully share this with some more people who need to hear it. That is what I have for you guys today. Bye.